Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about how this week I read like my sibling. Starting from last year, my sibling has gotten back into reading again, reading a lot of both novels and graphic novels, and they decided to challenge me by giving me 3 prompts to read based on books that they enjoy reading. So they challenged me to read an all-time favorite series, a recent favorite, and something off of my own TBR that interested them and they wanted to hear me talk about. So for the all-time favorite series, I read Scott Pilgrim vs. the World by Bryan Lee O'Malley. For a recent favorite, I read Batman Under the Red Hood by Judd Winnick. And for the TBR read, I read All's Well by Mona Awad. I have log portions of this video where you hear my most recent thoughts as they came, as well as the clips here where I discuss things in a more broad sense. So the first story I read was Batman Under the Red Hood by Judd Winnick. I ended up giving that one 5 stars. I enjoyed it very, very much. I really enjoy the arc that Jason Todd has in the series, and I'm glad that they decided to bring him back in such a unique and impactful way. If you don't know, Jason Todd was the second Robin. He was introduced into the Batman universe basically as Dick Grayson again. They tried to give him the exact same backstory and exact same character, but then a couple years later they decided to retcon that, and it became that Jason Todd was more reckless and more of an angstier bad boy when it came to being Robin. He was found by Bruce as he was trying to steal the tires off of the Batmobile, so he had a very dark past, and Bruce took him in and he became Robin, and he was more reckless and a little bit more violent and a bit more headstrong, and he clashed with Bruce because of it. And then in a series called Death in the Family, fans were allowed to phone in and vote whether or not Jason Todd would be killed. Ultimately, he was killed, and it was only because of a few hundred votes in that favor. So the Joker killed Jason Todd with a crowbar, and then a building blew up. And then decades later, a villain arises called the Red Hood, and he starts to attack Batman personally, and he eventually tries to get revenge on the Joker, and it's revealed to be Jason Todd all grown up and back from the dead. So Under the Red Hood is that tale, and it explains how he comes back from the dead and how he and Batman reconnect and how he tries to get his revenge. I think that it was excellently written. I think that that is such a unique take on the character, a unique way to clash with Batman and reconnect with Batman, and I just think that anti-heroes are pretty interesting, and I think that he was a good example of an anti-hero. It's a very compelling story because Red Hood knows all of Batman's tricks. He was trained by Batman, so of course he knows how to evade him and how to think the same way he does in a fight, so he gets the upper hand sometimes. Very, very interesting stuff. My sibling has always been a Batman fan ever since they were little, and I've recently joined them in that fun because we both loved the 2022 Batman movie so much, and now I'm watching Batman the Animated Series, and I'm reading a select few of the graphic novels that they suggest to me, and it's just very fun connecting on that level. We both love this superhero, and I like him because he's very gothic and very like a vampire, and I just think a lot of the villains are very interesting, and the character dynamics between the Bat family are very interesting. We've been watching several DC and Batman related movies and shows together, and I've been having a lot of fun connecting with my sibling in that way. So I had a lot of fun reading Batman Under the Red Hood. Okay, here I am for my first vlog update. I have finished Under the Red Hood by Judd Winnick et al., and I'm giving that comic 5 stars. I have already seen the movie adaptation that came out in, 2015 for Under the Red Hood, and I really enjoyed it despite hearing that the adaptation sort of lost a bit of its magic, had to change the storyline a bit to fit into one succinct film, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I thought that the comic was a better way to capture the tone that the film was going for. The tone of the comic is very jokey, like one joke after the other, and everyone has different styles of humor, which I thought connected well with each other. In the film, it just felt like very cheap joke delivery, and I didn't really appreciate it. Reading it on page was a lot better, and of course, with a comic, you get the little narration in the little boxes. And I felt that the 3 different perspectives of narration that we got helped tie the story together a lot better. You could hear the inner monologue of things going on, understand why Batman and Robin, or Batman and Nightwing, or Batman and the Red Hood connected together so well. I really liked that. And it was nice to see Alfred's perspective on the outside of things a little bit. I also enjoyed Mr. Freeze's little cameo in the comic. I thought that his dry sense of humor gelled really, really well with Black Mask just being this wild, crazy guy, and I love that he didn't understand any of his jokes. That was very, very funny to me. I really appreciated that teeny tiny, just little appearance of Mr. Freeze. I've never said that before. I just find the idea of Red Hood to be so compelling. I love the trope that, like, someone dies and comes back wrong, and they're out for revenge, and them later coping with the fact that they had all this trauma and just trying to be a better person out of it. Love that trope. I also really like the costume design for Red Hood. I like a leather jacket. And so I really enjoyed Under the Red Hood. I really liked it. A bit convoluted explanation. I think the Lazarus Pit could have just been enough. That's Superboy stuff. I'm glad that it was eventually retconned, but they really tried to push it in the comic. Just like, oh yeah, by the way, Superboy punched the world. Don't forget that. I think the Lazarus Pit would have been more than enough of an explanation for how Jason came back. Secondly, I read off of the TBR choice, and that was All's Well by Mona Awad. My sibling also read Bunny by Mona Awad at my request and really enjoyed it, so I think they wanted to see what the second book by Mona Awad, or third book by Mona Awad, was about, and if it was any good, and I am glad to say that I recommend All's Well. Read All's Well. I think this book did a really good job portraying chronic pain and mental issues and the struggle for control and just sadness that comes with all these things, and the twist that happens in this book is very effective, and I was very compelled reading it the entire time. I was very emotionally affected. I was looking forward to see what happened next. I was rooting for people, but also dreading what was going to happen. So this was a very, very enjoyable read, very well done, and once again, I highly recommend it. I give it 4 stars. And for my second read in this small challenge, I am reading something off of my TBR, which is All's Well by Mona Awad. I am 2/3 of the way through it, and so far I'm really, really liking it. It has the usual wacky, crazy style of writing that Mona Awad is known for, and as well as the plot. The plot is bonkers, and I'm really liking it so far. I'm at the stage where I am dreading reading it because I don't want any more embarrassing things to happen, and I don't want her to get caught, and I just don't want anything to happen to the main character. It's one of those where you want to read it really, really badly to see how it ends, but you're also like, oh god, I feel awful. So, really, really good so far. And soon I will give you updates about Scott Pilgrim, so stay tuned. Alrighty, today I finished All's Well by Mona Awad, and I'm giving this book 4 stars. Super good stuff in here, as usual, from Mona Awad. I had a better time understanding a lot of the craziness that happens in this book. Her books are very much about the protagonist going through a lot and having a lot of instances where you don't know what is real, you don't know what is fake, but in this one, there are a lot of allusions to both All's Well That Ends Well and Macbeth, so understanding those 2 plays helps you better understand what is going on in the novel, and I am glad with the ending, because I was worried that the ending would revert back to the beginning. Everything's fine. I'm satisfied with the ending. So this was a very, very solid story, and I am glad that I read it for this video and that I read it this month. And the final books that I am reading for this video are a part of the all-time favorite of my siblings, and that is all of the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels, comics. Yeah. So I will be digging into these very, very soon. They look to be a nice, quick read, so I am looking forward to these. We both really, really liked the movie the year it came out, and we have watched it several times. Afterwards, I really like the character of Wallace. I really like all the jokes in it. I think it's very funny. So hopefully the graphic novels are just as good as the film. I understand that there were changes made because these weren't even finished yet when the movies came out. So that's really, really cool, and I am looking forward to seeing all the similarities and all the differences in these comic books. So stay tuned. And finally, I finished out my week by reading all of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World by Bryan Lee O'Malley. This is a series that started in 2005 and ended some years afterwards. Like I said, I think while they were making the movie, they were struggling to figure out which ending would work, because I don't think the ending was exactly written out. I could be wrong. I'll correct myself here. But yeah, so there was a lot put into this series. It is 6 volumes. I am back from work and I'm doing my mini update about the first 3 volumes of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Volume 1 is basically made scene for scene in the movie. It's the beginning of the movie up until Matthew Patel, and so far this is my favorite volume just because I love the Matthew Patel scene, the rock show scene a lot. I especially really like Crash and the boys a lot. I like all the jokes in here. I like the way everything is set up in here, and I think it is an excellent first volume. The second volume deals with Lucas Lee and the introduction of Todd and Envy, and there is a lot of differences in here. There's actually a lot of backstory for Kim and Scott and them in Catholic high school and starting their band, and there's a lot of just small subtle differences in here, but a lot of this is in the film. And this one I liked a little bit less, but I think it still have a pretty good ball rolling in the series. And this volume obviously deals with a lot of Envy and Todd, and it is almost completely different from the movie. There are still a few scenes that they do, but the way that they deal with Todd is completely different from the film, and they use a lot of what Envy and Ramona fought with in the next battle with the next X. So I'm wondering what Volume 4 is going to be like if they used a lot of what happens in Volume 3 for the next X, even though it was supposed to be for Envy. So it's just a lot of major differences starting to happen, and I am enjoying them for the most part. It's just a lot harder to understand since it changes from the movie and I saw the movie first. And I am looking forward to getting to the final 3 volumes. I already discussed my thoughts on the first 3 volumes, but I just wanted to reiterate that they are as close to the movie as possible, with some new additions put in, such as Scott's backstory, and I think that these were really, really good, and I really enjoyed them, mostly because I was remembering the jokes and events from the movie. Now, 4, 5, and 6 are almost completely different from the movie. The movie had to condense all of these X's stories in order to fit the film length, which is understandable, and I think that that is a more cohesive and succinct way to bring this story, the story of the evil X's, all together, because that was the point of the film. However, the graphic novels go more deeply into the changes that all of the characters are having in their life. People are moving back home, people are moving into new places, people are getting jobs, people are coming to terms with their sexuality, etc. So there's a lot of excellent themes of changing and growing up, and they're still connected to the theme of video games in that way, like the getting a life and the extra life and the, experience points that you get from living rather than staying at home. And they end up condensing everything into these excellent volumes. I think the differences between the graphic novel and the movie really show the differences between the two mediums, because this is very much like a slice of life graphic novel series with a video game twist, while the movie sticks to the intense video game action and fighting off evil X's. Ultimately, I really liked the series, and I will be giving the series, I believe, 4 stars. I think 4 stars is an excellent rating for Scott Pilgrim. My sibling really, really likes the series because it's very connected to us, because there's a lot of nerdy references. It is set in Canada. My sibling lived in Toronto for a while, so they went to a lot of the places that Scott Pilgrim also went to Honest Ed's, and went to Pizza Pizza, and knows all the streets and all the places, and all the really, really cool references to Canada and Toronto, which I think is very unique. And like I said, we both just loved the film growing up, so I'm glad that I read the complete series as another way to connect and understand my sibling more, understand what makes things a favorite in there. So that's it. That's how I read Like My Sibling for a week. I'm really glad that I was able to take on this challenge and that I read some excellent things that are helping me connect more with my sibling. I love them very, very much, and they make me so happy. The recent years of us being together have been some of the happiest years of my life, and I can't wait for more of the adventures that we go on together. I love you. Yes, be embarrassed. I know you're watching. Alright, that's it. I want to thank you all so much for watching and look forward to videos in the future. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.